Hello everyone, I am Kim C. I teach university fiction, and this is my one-woman lecture-style Stephen King podcast called The Year of Underrated Stephen King. It is such a joy to have you join me on this very special episode where I continue my personal, academic, and literary pursuit to gather data on one of my favorite topics to explore, the women of Stephen King. Since 2021, I've put forth this ultra-robust topic to explore with constant readers. If you jump back to, I think it's episodes 64 and 96, I open up the floor to ask King folk about which Stephen King females really impact them, really get them thinking, which King women stay with them long after the story is finished. In my past explorations, we've talked about archetypes and symbolism, and someday I'm going to turn all this data into something lovely, whether it be a panel or an academic paper, or perhaps my own publication, maybe. But for right now, I'm gathering data, and I have the best, and I'm not joking, friends, the best person to help me unpack this topic today. I have one of my favorite King friends with me to unravel the women of Stephen King Part 3. Matt Robinson hosts the Kingsize podcast with Simon Balkan. He is 1000% my Stephen King twin flame. Firstly, we both get on like a house on fire, pun intended. And secondly, I think we both aren't your typical King fan that is super saturated in all things horror related. For me, I think I'm a little weird kid at the back of the room chatting with Matt as we wiggle around the horror stuff to discover all the powerful writing, all the layered themes and character parallels. The good stuff, folks. The good stuff. I think Matt and I are both in the same game to observe the master's work. And the horror stuff is cool. It's there. It's fine. It's on the side. But we're the ones in the back hanging on every word. Let me tell you guys and gals, Matt really brings it today. Oh my gosh, please give this man a 200-seat lecture hall because his research is incredible, his delivery is impeccable. We are in the presence of a true scholar and passionate King fan, and I feel like I'm the luckiest lady to have this person on the show. Without further ado, please listen to my fellow Stephen King podcaster and friend Matt Robinson tell the Year of Underrated Stephen King podcast listeners about his favorite Stephen King females. All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. One of my favorite people, co-host of the Kingsize podcast, Matt Robinson. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, hello you. Thank you so much for having me back, Kim. It's a real privilege and an honor to be back on one of my favorite podcasts. So thank you so much.
Matt makes me smile from ear to ear. So what a treat that he gets to spend some time with us talking about such an amazing topic that I'm so thrilled to unpack a little bit more. This is our third installment investigating the women of Stephen King.
Well, I was just so chuffed that you asked me to be on this particular episode, because it means, the theme means so much to me. I was very much brought up by a very, very strong, powerful woman. And I live in a house of women, my amazing wife and my two daughters. And our beautiful boy doesn't live with us during the week, but he's back at weekends. So, for me, I am very honored to spend time around incredibly wonderful women and, always such a champion of women and some of the most incredible people I work with on the day-to-day bread and butter job thing, is with these incredible leaders, the majority of who have high EQ and IQ are predominantly the female of the species rather than the male. And, one of the greatest things I think about Kingsize is when we check our stats is that actually the majority of our listeners are female. And that's just really cool. Again, just busting out these myths that, if you like horror and you like Stephen King, or, how easy it is to pigeonhole those two things together, that it's not just the domain of men or blokes or those that identify as male. So, that's really cool for us.
thrilled. Oh, you're so lucky. The ladies are Kingsize fans. That brings me so much joy. And I love that so much because I think the majority of people out there do associate King with being kind of a dude writer.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that women read King, and I love that they're plugged in. And yeah, I think you're the perfect candidate as you are such a champion of women. So this is going to be amazing. This is such a fun topic, and it's very loose goose. Matt only really has 3 questions. So we're going to just kind of take our time and stew in these questions and see what magic pops up. We're going to kind of kick it off with looking at your long history with King. Matt is one of these readers who's, I think you've pretty much read everything. Yeah. Like you're seasoned King vet.
Yeah, pretty much most of it. Yeah.
I want to take a look. This is our first question to kind of open up this topic, this dusty trunk in the back. And I'd like to know your top 3 or your top 5 Stephen King females. And they can be heroines, victims, villains. We can just go across the spectrum. They can be monsters, actual creatures. It's all open. It's all good.
So, I mean, it's just such a brilliant question. And I think it has been taking up probably 95% of my small brain capacity.
Yay!
On dog walks, on times when I'm sat looking like I'm working, concentrating really hard, and they're thinking, wow, he's really thinking about this latest project or this. No, I'm thinking about, do I go with this character or this one? Or
I love it.
And I have swayed backwards and forwards, and there have been candidates and front runners and ones that have been cast away at the last moment. But I think I've settled. So it's a brilliant question and a joy to be able to answer it. So the first woman that I'm going to talk about within the King universe, who is an absolute heroine, and I think without doubt the most important female in the Stephen King universe, that is a certain Tabitha King.
Oh, so good. That one's being written down.
When King was broke, they're living in a trailer, supporting a newborn and a toddler. King can't even afford his own typewriter, so he uses Tabby's Olivetti from college. There's this running joke, apparently, at the King dinner table that he only married her because she had a typewriter. And King said, and this is a quote, he said, "That's only partly true. I married her because I loved her and because we got on as well out of bed as in it." The typewriter was a factor, though. At that time when everything was under the microscope, you know, he'd written 3 novels at that stage that were just stuck still in a drawer, Rage, The Long Walk and Blaze. And at that time, mainly was writing for girly mags, as they were at the time. And, you know, kind of amongst the centerfolds and all of that, there would be these articles and these stories that he'd write. And a reader told him, "You write all these macho things, but you can't write about women. You're scared of women." And, you know, King then took that as a real challenge and started to write a novel called Carrie. King, in his memoir on writing, said, "I couldn't see wasting 2 weeks, maybe even a month, creating a novella I didn't like and wouldn't be able to sell. So I threw it away. After all, who wanted to read a book about a poor girl with menstrual problems?" And Tabby said, "Well, no, there's something there. You've got it. I think you do." And she, I really believe, you know, helped him to discover how to articulate and connect with that female voice. And, you know, that was then after, how many was it? I think it was 30 publishers rejected it.
Oh my gosh.
And he talks about having this nail and all the rejection slips were put upon it. And eventually he's like, right, well, when that falls down, I get a bigger nail and I keep going. And eventually it was, you know, accepted, published, 1 million copies sold in its first year. And you've got to look at her as this catalyst, as this homemaker, this matriarch who was working 2 jobs. I think she was working a night job as well to be able to support him to write alongside the teaching he was doing. And I think without her faith in him and her incredible skills as a mother, as a human being, as a woman, as a wife, as a partner, as a supporter, a champion, I don't think we'd have this man. He wouldn't have, these books wouldn't come out. Let alone what are we on, Kim, like 80 books later now? And it all starts with her, you know?
Wow. I mean, we really do owe her everything.
Yeah.
You're right. She is sort of the backbone to this brilliant creative force. And man, without her, I don't know if we'd have anything. I don't know what we'd have.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And every book, you know, it's that dedication to Tabby. I was really struck, Kim, by when he won the Medal of Distinguished Contribution to American Letters in 2003. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say, that incredible speech he does at the National Book Awards. And he said there's a time in the lives of most writers when they are vulnerable and when the vivid dreams and ambitions of childhood seem to pale in the harsh sunlight of what we call the real world. In short, there's a time when things can go either way. That vulnerable time for me came during 1971 to 1973. If my wife had suggested to me, even with love and kindness and gentleness, that the time had come to put my dreams away and support my family, I would have done that with no complaint. And this is for Tabby, who got me into it and then bailed me out of it.
Oh, my heart. Oh, that's such a beautiful quote.
Yeah. And, you know, that selflessness. And obviously, you know, an incredible writer in her own right and published author. And I just, yeah, I find it very inspiring, their love story, their commitment to each other. And, you know, you get this sense of when they got together, those vows they made, richer for poorer, sickness and in health. And there's nothing there for me. I'm not religious at all. It's nothing to do with that. It's to just do with a commitment you make to each other. And I think she was the power and the flame that kept him able to, you know, to keep going. So she's got to be the queen to the king, right?
Amazing. I love what you said about, well, I love everything, but how both of them were so passionate about the craft, because I think Tabby never ever said, it seemed like there was always this excitement to find out what would happen next. And I think you only get that when you yourself are a lover of the written word and a creative. And so I just love that she herself was passionate about reading and writing. They're such a good match. And what a wonderful, amazing love story, because she encouraged that creative development. There was a devotion in her own heart to the creative work, and how beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the arts can be really demanding. I think if you are involved in them on any level, you know, be it as an author or a musician, a director, you know, if you're a creative, it's not 9 to 5. There's not that stability of it. In fact, what attracts so many people and pulls on that creative pull in their heart is the fact that it isn't structured and it's free flowing. Now that's beautiful, but obviously that comes up against the demands of family and raising kids and the need to pay the bill and pay the mortgage and buy nappies and all of those earthbound things that can, for some artists, kind of get in the way of their creativity. So I think here's just this perfect example of someone just the ultimate selflessness at that moment, just going, right now, I see something here and you need to really get your head down and focus on that. And I got this. And I think, you know, so many creators are able to flourish because they have a partner or a support mechanism, a support group that allows them to do that. You know, it does take a village, right? It really does.
The reading world owes her a huge debt.
Too right, Kim. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so we've got the queen. We started off with like the grande dame, which is beautiful. Who else is in Matt's treasure chest?
Okay, so then we move into the novels themselves, and this lady was always going to be the front runner for me of the fictional characters, and it is the larger than life Annie Wilkes.
Yes, amazing. Oh my gosh. The infamous and immortal Annie.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much interesting stuff out there about Annie. And I just read some fascinating essays and stories that she's inspired and that character is inspired. And one that I do want to quote from Meg Ellison from Fantasy Magazine. And Meg writes that King's female villains are few and far between, and Misery's Annie Wilkes is the queen of that small court. She stands above the rest of his female characters by about the height of a 7 foot plus a thumb. And the title, of their essay is All the King's Women. Annie Wilkes is the mother goddess of cocaine. And I'm always, as you know, I'm a huge lover of your podcast, Kim. And when you talk about, the goddesses and the dark goddesses, and I think Annie Wilkes in particular, there's this incredibly interesting portrayal of this matriarch within the novel. This matriarch who has issues with their mental health and real sadness and a real sense of injustice. And she's so layered. She's so layered on the page. I mean, King writes, she was a big woman who, other than the large but unwelcoming swell of her bosom under the grey cardigan sweater she always wore, seemed to have no feminine curves at all. Her body was big but not generous. There was a feeling about her of clots and roadblocks, rather than welcoming orifices or even open spaces, areas of hiatus. Most of all, she gave him a disturbing sense of solidity, as if she might not have any blood vessels or even internal organs, as if she might be only solid Annie Wilkes from side to side and top to bottom.
Oh my gosh, Matt. Oh, I love that you brought the text.
Listen, I was so nerdy, and I've just been geeking out because it's such important questions you're asking, Kim. It's like, right, let's really, really look at what's being discussed here. And I mean, what a description, this idea that, a hiatus, that she's just this solidity, big but not generous. That line he writes, about feeling about her of clots and roadblocks. I mean, what a description. And I know very much often King has absolutely had a less than admirable track record in describing people of a larger size, both men and women. And it's just not good enough for a writer of that caliber and sensitivity. It's a little bit of a tin ear there at times, and I totally get that. But here, I think he's writing with a real purpose. Interestingly, as a woman, here, King writes she's mannish, she's solid, she's unbeatable, whereas Paul he's like helpless and broken and infantilized almost, and very much emasculated, very emasculated, lying on the bed, not able to move, dependent upon her. And that horrific scene after she amputates his foot, and she says, "You're lucky I didn't cut off your man gland. I thought of it, So this incredible alpha male that Paul Sheldon is, completely emasculated and penetrable, whereas she is impenetrable. And it's really disturbing the language that King uses to talk about their relationship, because he does talk about it and writes about it as sexual violence, as rape. He says she had forced into him the way a man might force a part of himself into an unwilling woman. Her lips were clamped over his again, lips as dry and dead as strips of salted leather. And she raped him full of her air again."
Wow.
I mean, huge, right? You're reading about her breathing life back into him, doing CPR, the gift of giving life back. But it's written in those terms, She is absolutely taken on what in some horror fiction is that, or some traditional male role of King's novels. And, this maternal thing, she is a very dark mother. She infantilizes him. She feeds him while he's in bed. She bathes him. She shaves him. He's kind of her kidnapped baby,
Yeah.
And initially in that first section, before she loses her stuff and throws the soup at him, you kind of could be thinking, oh, wow, she's really sweet. And isn't he lucky? She's a nurse. Oh, great. And she's feeding him soup, and he's in a house, and oh my God, she found him. And then, there's almost this mother love, this bond between this maternal figure and this child. And then it starts to shift. And you realize that even as a nurse, there's this ghost and this story of her, what she did on the wards. And I think that's why the Misery character matters so much. Misery is her comfort. Misery for her is her daughter, her child. And when Paul threatens to take it away and goes, no, don't worry about her. I've written this other book and it's great. It's about something totally unrelated to your world. She's like, no, you're not taking my child away from me. There's all of that at sea between the two, this kind of this threat, this hint of incest as well, and the intimacy between them. Even when at the end of the book, when he's shoving the paper down her throat and the language he's using, and it's finally he's starting to get his power and strength back. They're like magnets that repel and attract each other. There's this force, this string between them. And I do think it's a two-hander, right? I mean, yeah, you've got a few other players that come and go, but effectively why it works as a stage play as well is this two-hander between this dark goddess and this emasculated hero or anti-hero. It's astonishing read, I think. Astonishing.
I just want to stand up and give you a standing ovation. I just want to clap for 5 minutes because that was so genius. And I so appreciate your perspective. And I loved that so much, mostly because Annie Wilkes scared me more than any King villain or King character has. And I think as a woman, and imagining myself in Paul Sheldon's position, which I think a lot of the readers did, I mean, we're just put in that same place, knowing that she could not be reasoned with, knowing that you could not appeal to sympathy, basically every sort of human negotiating factor, it would be manipulated and you would receive further pain. And yet, as you mentioned, it's wrapped up in that maternal care, and what a horrible minefield for the brain and for the soul. I also love reading it in 2021. I had such sympathy for her, mental health wise. And I don't think in the 80s that's present when the novel was written. So I think we have a lot more sympathy for her, but yet her behavior is so horrific that I think the sympathy sort of hurts us even more as readers, because we're we can't condone this. You are a monster. This behavior is monstrous. And yet we understand that your brain is scrambled egg. Something inside you is so off.
Yes.
So what a beautiful distillation of this character and this dark mother, this dark feminine, but is it feminine? Because the king really sort of rips that away, as you said. He doesn't want us to look at her as a woman, matronly, maternal, not at all.
That's it. He just dangles that and then goes, no, but this isn't her. And you're going to come to realize that. And I think you speak so true about, it's very easy to just think, she's just evil. But as we say, I mean, perhaps there's bipolar, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive features, but also times where she's incredibly human. I love the moment where she gets so pissed off with him because he writes something that she thinks he's cheating her and being unfair. And she's like, no, this isn't this is not what's meant to happen. Don't you cheat me or rob me of this. And my God, I felt that, right? As a consumer of arts, as a reader or a listener to music, where you go, oh no, don't do that, don't cheapen that, or So I love those moments there that are really relatable. But I mean, I think I've heard it described as the monstrous feminine at some stage. Her monstrosity derives from renouncing the traditional femininity, and I think that's definitely the angle that King is pushing her to. And, she's got a wealth of mental health issues, but she's completely isolated. I don't think she takes any medication for it. There's no treatment. She's living by herself. And there's a real sadness to that as well. But terrifying, as you say, it's a character that haunted you. I don't think many of King's books really terrify me, but Misery did, especially the sections where Paul is trying to escape. And it was that mix of the pages. I couldn't turn them quickly enough, but at the same time, my hands were just so clammy. It was taking me ages to actually turn the page. I could feel, I'm sure at that moment, for most of us, heartbeats going up, cortisol's rising. It really is a stress response. And of course, beautifully portrayed by Kathy Bates. You know, a phenomenal adaptation that I think really brought the layers of the character to life, you know, more than just a monster. I think King said as well, Kim, when he was asked during the pandemic, if you were to be isolated, you know, self-isolate with someone, one of your characters, which is the one you'd least like to be with. He said, without doubt, Annie Wilkes. Yeah.
I love Kathy Bates's portrayal. That movie is, it's bananas in the best way.
Yeah.
I remember coming from the novel and then seeing her performance, and I was like, oh, she's way too pretty. She's way too sweet. And even though she is heinous, and I think that passage you read, the language against Annie or describing her so dark and negative that whatever beauty is there or could be there, he just absolutely smears over that. Like, I don't want you to look at this woman as a woman. She is anatomically, yes, but no, this is a monster. And I do love that. And it is fascinating. I wonder if he didn't do that with such a heavy hand, it would just create more layers for sure. But as you kind of mentioned, there was a really great Rolling Stone article he did where he calls Annie cocaine.
Yeah.
She is his cocaine addiction.
That's right.
That one always is in the back of my mind when we see how destructive Annie is. And after a while, the party's over and it's really over. And yet you can't stop, even though everybody's gone home and doesn't want to party with you anymore. And so,
yeah.
Then again, this addiction is after you like an axe, like somebody just wanting your destruction. And that's how ugly the addiction can get. There's so many layers to her. Great pick.
That's it, isn't it? Because you can do the cocaine thing in the same way that Cujo could be a metaphor for that. And I love that his books are able to withstand as many reads as we want to put on them, you know, and that's the thing, the fascinating thing. There's a wealth of essays and thoughts and discussions and threads and posts, pods about King. And a lot of them, you know, sometimes you go, well, that makes sense to me. Others I go, I don't get that for me. But I love the fact that there's enough, it's solid enough that it can not bow under all the weights of the reads that we want to put upon it.
Do you have, now that she's fresh in your mind, a favorite scene from Annie, like a favorite moment?
Gosh, I mean, the moment, I love that bit where she's lying on the bed in the film and she's just watching the TV. I think Misery, the pig is down by her side.
Yeah.
And she's necking some Pepsi or Coke and just, it's like she's just gone off duty for a moment. And then before she comes back to terrorize, I think it's the moment though where she first throws the soup in the film. And because up to that point, again, you're lulled into, as you say, she's there's a softness, and there's a softness in the cinematography. And if you were to just put it on at that moment, you'd go, oh, it looks like a daytime TV movie. She's feeding him soup and mopping his brow, giving him his medicine, and he's in bed and it's snowy outside. Oh, this is so lovely, and the warm glow. And then when she just realizes what he's written and he's killed Misery and he's trying this other book, and she just throws the bowl and everything switches. And there's lightning in her eyes. And then it comes back to how it was before. And you just go, oh, okay, I got a psycho here, and I can't move. And I think I'm right in saying, Cy would know it like the back of his hand. His knowledge of films is astonishing. But I think she won the Oscar for it, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I think so.
And again, to just, how snotty and snooty sometimes Academy Awards are, and all of that regarding anything that comes from what they view as the horror world or the horror universe. So that, I mean, a testament in itself. Powerhouse performance, really, really was. But what great source material.
Really quick before we transition, the scene that really doesn't leave my brain often, I don't know why, because there's so many moments in Misery that I blocked out because it was too intense. It was wonderful, but too much.
Yeah.
When this is one of Paul's escape moments where he gets out of the room and I don't know if Annie's there in the house, but he sees that there's just all this sweet food everywhere, like cupcakes, cookies, ice cream, and it's sticky and it's messy. And for whatever, I was like, oh, this is the witch from Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Like, this is that dark goddess. This is that
That's
dark,
brilliant.
evil witch.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Isn't that great?
I love that. Oh, Kim. Oh God, that's so powerful what you say, because there's something about the fairy tale. Absolutely,
Yeah.
the grim fairy tale. There's so much of King's writing. Yeah, absolutely. Snow White and but yeah, pure Hansel and Gretel.
Right.
Yeah, right. He's almost been through his kind of, losing control, literally, of the car. Bang, he ends up in her web almost, but it's like sticky. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's a great read on it. Everything's sticky, and there's the sweetness, and there's and in Hansel and Gretel, right? Cooks them. Well, she's planning. She's stoking the oven. She's stoking the oven, right, to get the kids in there. And I think probably in the original Grimm's fairy tale, they probably don't have the happy Disney ending, right? So
most likely not. Most likely not. Very grim.
Very grim. This is going to be called the Sheldon edition, initially, and the whole idea was that be bound with the skin of Paul Sheldon. And I mean, it's such a dark one, but also I've recommended Misery to as many people as I have 11/22/63, because I think for a lot of people that go, I want something, but I don't want anything too supernatural or anything. I'm like, okay, you want just something that is pure suspense and pure characterization, just two titans holding up this whole story. Misery.
Love it.
And it's pacey. It's all killer, no filler with that one, right?
Yes.
It's just not a single word wasted. Him at his peaks, I'd say.
That one was the hardest for me to get through. But when I got through it, I was like, this is a masterpiece. This was the most difficult yet rewarding, masterful text I've ever read from him thus far. But oh my goodness, Matt, it just scared me to my soul.
I was going to say, was it the fear of it that made it a tough one for you to get through?
100%. Yeah. I think maybe the being trapped hit me harder than I realized. And then knowing that you're so injured, in and out of consciousness, so you're super druggy, you're just in this druggy haze all the time, you're in crippling amounts of pain. And so I think a part of me just wanted him to die. We've reached critical mass. Like, you gotta get yourself out of here, Paul. And so I think my own sort of fear, okay, I would take all the Novril, I would swallow them all, and I would get out of that body, and who cares? And so the fact that he doesn't die and we're stuck for whatever reason, it was so beautifully written and it's so powerful. And like you said, it's such a suspense cortisol raiser. I wanted it to end. Matt, I was like, I can't take this anymore. I can't take it. My body and my brain, I'm not strong enough. I'm not strong enough.
That's brilliant.
Getting to the end and actually sticking with it when I wanted to quit. And oh my God, Matt, I wanted to quit at 150 pages. It's a 300-page novel and I was ready to be done halfway through. And so I had to force myself. I had to really, really dig deep and finish it. And I've never had that reaction with a King text before. Never.
Wow. He would be delighted, right?
He would. He would.
He would be like, bingo, that's exactly why I write, to have that visceral response to, and as you said, when I listen to you talk about, often you've had a real visceral, emotional, physical response to his writing. I know, is it Bag of Bones that's a big one for you? Yeah,
you got it. Yep.
And I think the power of a writer to be able to have that response, both heart, head, and body to your work is incredibly powerful. And yeah, I think you'd be absolutely delighted because, and that's the thing is you say, you go, I just want him to die and take it away. And instead, she's just taking, I mean, she physically takes bits from him.
Yeah.
She literally, absolutely, like in Hansel and Gretel, just start laying this sweet trap and then starts to then the bitterness comes through and she just starts to hack bits off him.
Absolutely.
From a thumb to a foot to, and you think, oh my God, she's going to take her time with him. There's times I think, oh man, is he just going to OD?
Yeah.
And obviously King captures his descent into drug addiction, enforced drug addiction, and necessary drug addiction here to counteract the pain mentally and physically. He captures it so well. There are times I'm going, Paul, just OD on this, just get out of here.
Yes.
She's gonna either just keep you. That's the thing. I never thought she'd kill him. I just kept thinking she's just gonna take parts of you until you get to the stage, go, just take whatever. There is nothing left. I think that's the most scary thing of all. She preys on him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Starting to look like a nurturer and a nurse. She stalks this ward and
right. I know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, now I'm shivering now. It's summer and you got me shivering.
Oh, I know. I tell you, great choice. And he is unsinkable, unkillable, infamous, and I am so glad that she's in the canon so we can just peel back all the crazy. All right, who else is in the trunk?
Yeah, so next in the trunk is someone that I think you're gonna like, and the complete antithesis to Annie Wilkes. Someone who I just really, really fell for, and the way her relationship develops through the book and the way she completely comes into this novel and turns it on its head. And that is the brilliant Alice Maxwell from Billy Summers.
Oh my goodness. Oh, thrilled.
Yes.
I could squeal. Amazing. This is wonderful. So with Billy being such a new book, can you give a little bit of a description about Alice in case folks haven't read it yet?
Yeah.
And they need to immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would really recommend the episode in which you came and joined us, Kim, and on Kingsize, and we spoke a good couple of hours worth of Billy Summers, and your read on it and your take on it is just so powerful. So yeah, it was a joy talking about that. And for me, Billy Summers came out a couple of books ago, book before Fairytale, and for me it's an utter high watermark for King.
Yes.
It's a book about him looking back, I think, over his life, over the craft of writing, and it's a love letter to literature and the power of fiction and the power of imagination. But it's set through this lens of Billy Summers, this Iraqi vet who's a hitman, and he's kind of like Dexter in that he only kills bad guys. And it's the classic one last job. He's about to just, step away. And the guys he's involved with, they pull him in, Godfather style, for one final job. They reel him back in. It's a good payday on the end of it. And the first half of the novel, I'll tread lightly around it. The first half of the novel is about Billy getting ready for this job and preparing himself to do this one last job whilst masquerading as an author. So really interesting. Quite a slow pace, lots of room, lots of breath within it, lots of lovely meandering that King can afford to do. And then halfway through, Billy's in this subterranean apartment, this basement. It's almost like a submarine with a periscope going up it. And it's he's hiding. He's trying to keep out of sight. He thinks he's been double crossed and he's got to keep low. And suddenly he hears this squeal of tires of a van. And this young girl, Alice Maxwell, is literally thrown into his life on his doorstep. And we meet her just after she's been brutally attacked by people in the van who've just thrown her out. And she becomes then the pivot of the book. And the second half of the book is all really, for me, about Billy and Alice, character called Bucky as well. But it's Billy and Alice, their relationship is, wow, it's astonishing.
It is. Wow is right.
Yeah.
Oh, my heart. I'm getting
Yeah.
emotional. What an amazing choice. I'm so thrilled.
Yeah. So much with this one, Kim. Again, I went back to the source for King, and he said, I knew they were going to become friends. I had no idea that they were going to become almost like outlaws together. And that was a nice thing to realize. And I love the fact that King describes her. They become like these outlaws together because Alice enters Billy's world. And for me, she brings humanity, redemption, purpose to Billy. She is a rape survivor of the grimmest crime, but still very much manages to hold on to her humanity, doesn't lose her moral compass or goodness. Where Billy goes to take revenge on the rapists, she's actually the one she wants pain inflicted, goddamn right, but she doesn't want them killed.
Right.
And I remember I read that and I reread that and I reread that. I was like, again, I was chomping. I was like, no, kill him really slowly, really, really painfully. They deserve to die for what they've done. And then you've got this character there going, no, hurt them, but don't kill them. And that stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
She's living proof as well about a fresh start, or jotted down in my notes about the power of rewriting a better story, a better narrative. And she does that very much in the final section of the novel. Again, I'm treading lightly because I know it's relatively new. Some people might not have read it. But she is the person that really embodies the power of, you know what? You can dream it up. You can create a life that might be different from the life that's written down on the page, or what has happened to you. You can then write a new chapter, a new story. And she embodies that. She's really strong. She's really powerful. She is the one who I think, is much stronger than Billy and Bucky, and they're kind of in awe of her. As a reader, I found myself just in a really interesting state when I met her, and she's so obviously vulnerable and so raw and tender and brutalized. And it was a very difficult passage to read. And, and it's quite extended, and almost felt I shouldn't be reading it. It was so shockingly intimate, the recovery after the event. And then, start to just see her character come to life and come to light, and their relationships start to just settle down and start to grow. And it's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful relationship that is, for me, it was very paternal, but there is absolutely this hint of romance there, and this offering of romance there that I think is really important and really needed. And it makes for quite a conflicting read.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not straightforward, and that's why I think he captures Alice and Billy so subtly and nuanced and beautifully, because it's really conflicting. As a reader, I'm going, well, part of me goes, yes, yeah, maybe they'd be amazing together. Maybe they should get together. And then I go, no, but it's like a father-daughter relationship. And then I'm like, but is she defined by what's happened to her, or is she, victim, survivor? I mean, it's a really complicated read, as it should be because of what it deals with. I don't know if that rings true to your sense of Alice.
Oh, Matt, my heart could explode. It's just, I think you just nailed it. You nailed, first of all, like, what an amazing choice. What an amazing choice. She's a new King female. Yeah. She is so layered. And I think unless you're looking closely, you might miss the magic she brings, because it's subtle. It's subtle. And so I think you did such a fascinating job of really, really looking at this young girl who is injected into the novel as kind of like an, oh no, like a problem. She's a problem.
Yeah.
She ends up, like you said, turning everything around. I too share the same confliction, but as a female, I loved her so much. I wanted to be her friend. I was so in admiration of her spirit and her kindness and her moral compass, as you mentioned. But also, I think there was in the recovery process, there's like more bravery. And I think when we see in fiction these characters that undergo these horrific things that happen to them, I always get this idea that they're kind of reset to factory settings. And so all the things that inhibited them, all their things they're afraid of, they don't exist anymore. They're kind of very different. They're shadows of themselves. And so she's kind of like almost born again, this young girl.
Yeah.
And so she's looking at the world she's in and she's like, oh, wow, I was a college student a few weeks ago and now I'm a survivor and I really want to help this assassin who's he's an assassin, but there's this wonderful genuine kindness and protection and love that he's bestowed upon me, and I feel safe. I trust this person. And so there is that inkling of romance there, because you're like, oh, all of these admirable qualities, I kind of really like this person. And so I feel I identified with her so much as a female. Like, it's okay to be feeling all these things.
Yeah.
Feeling like he's a father figure, but then to be like, but I really want to be close to this person. I want to share some kind of physical closeness with this person. And she goes out of her way to ask that, to kind of say, and she tells him, she's like, I love you. Like, here's how I feel. And I think King did a brilliant job of honoring that she's feeling a lot of things and in a recovery zone. And he made that very protected and sacred, even though it's floating and the readers, we're all stuck and confused, but we want it, we don't want it. And that's like what real love is. Genuine love is like that. And he really captured some magic, Matt. And I'm so glad you see it as brilliantly as it should be seen. And oh man, I'm so glad you were like, please read Billy Summers today. Do it now. And you're so right, because holy crap, like Alice is wow.
Beautifully put, Kim. I think it's one of his masterpieces, and a real high watermark for me, that book.
Yeah.
I do. I genuinely think as a piece of art, it's incredible. The way that he writes, and I know in your brilliant episode on Billy that you've got on, Underrated, you talk about the prose and the muscularity of the prose, and it's these really short, sharp sentences, almost like you're looking at like a movie script, like stage directions.
Yeah.
It's very, very stripped down. Very stripped down descriptions that has a lovely pace to it. And then when Alice comes, the writing changes and the whole feel of the novel changes. And then in the final section, where we shift to her perspective and her telling the story. Yeah, so as a piece of writing, I think it is astonishing, which for me is why Fairytale felt like such a letdown. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
I love it.
But it's one that I just think, it's like kind of one of those, look, here's a real grown-up Stephen King book, all right? You put that up against, Steinbeck and McEwan. I mean, any of these writers, it's wonderful. And what you said really interested me, because King said, and I got a quote from him, he said, you couldn't very well have a sexual relationship between them. It would not have worked. It would have been a wrong thing to do, I think, in terms of Billy's character. Particularly, you're talking about a rape victim here. And so, no, that wouldn't work. When she comes to the point where she's able to say, I will sleep with you if you want, that's her decision to make. That's a place that she also comes to on her own and not anything that she's coaxed into. So I think that part is okay. That was a difficult character to deal with in terms of being a rape survivor. I read a lot of stuff about that as well. I just did the best I could with it. That's all. Now, that admission there of, as you've just said, when she comes to that moment of, look, I love you, I want to be physically close with you, that comes from her.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's her complete agency going, I have been through something truly horrific, but I'm here now, and this is where I'm at, and I'm at that stage where I feel safe enough and strong enough to be able to go, look, I want this. Yeah, and the ability to write that, especially from a male point of view, at his age now, with the nuance that he was writing in this particular book, it felt like he was able to really, really hit that nail on the head and go places where maybe a lot of writers, especially a lot of male writers, would either have been really clumsy or tongue-tied or flat-footed with it, or just missed the mark horrendously. So I think it's a really complex, and I read it thinking initially, is this kind of some kind of Stockholm syndrome thing going on? And actually, I just think, no, it's these two lost souls that come together and find a way to heal.
Yeah.
And to heal each other. And I think in some ways we know that Billy's had this trauma of his sister's passing when he was young, and feeling that he should have saved her life. And so here again, in the most unlikely form, comes this redemption, this redemptive, incredible King female. So yeah, astonishing woman, astonishing book.
So beautifully said, Matt. So beautifully explored. Wow. Yeah. I really, really hope that listeners out there will put Billy to the top of the pile, because there is some real complex magic between these characters. And the symbolism they bring to this story is just off the train tracks of incredible. I'm so pleased. And I think you put it perfectly. If King was, 20 years younger, I really don't think he could have made this landing. If he was 10 to 15 years younger, I don't know if it would have worked. I think at the age he is, it's a perfect, wise decision. So much wisdom brought to this plot and to these characters, where I've talked to a lot of ladies who have read Billy Summers, because I freaked out about it after.
Yeah.
They loved it, which is great. But then several of them were like, oh, yes, thank goodness nothing happened between them. Thank goodness. And I was like, why is that? And they're like, because she might be confused. It's still fresh. It's still new. She's like, but maybe later on. Maybe later on. So I've gotten that a lot. Like, they were very relieved that King made the decisions he made. But also they did believe that genuine connection and that genuine joining of these unlikely people and what they brought to each other's lives. And there was something very real about that. And so it was amazing. It's amazing to have females read this book and chat with them about it.
Yes.
Really awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely, that's what I'm saying to my wife, that do read this one, read this one next, because it's so fascinating, so hard hitting, so brutal, so brooding. And this relationship, between two, again, King showing that it doesn't have to be male, female, simple, oh, boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, boy. No, here where we meet, as we know, it's so layered, and she's a problem. And, and he's torn. God, this is the last thing I need. Do I just leave her out there, let it go? But I can't. I've got to go and save her, because otherwise the police are going to come, and then they're going to, door to door, search. So he does it out of purely selfish reasons, and that's again what I love about his writing here. There's nothing heroic here about Billy. You got this assassin, like, hiding in a basement, cowering away, guy who's lied to everyone in his life, but we root for him every step of the way.
We do.
And that's the thing with Alice. She's not just I don't believe that she's just a plot device or a vehicle.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing leering about the writing or the relationship. It's messy and it's awkward, and it makes us feel a little bit, I don't know if I should be looking or reading. And at other moments just sweeps our heart away. And that's how it should be, right? As you said, that's how it should be. So, yeah.
So good.
When I was doing that, I was like, I can't wait to share that one with you.
Oh, yeah. I definitely lost it. So great. So that's 3. We've got Annie. Well, we've got Tabitha, Queen Tabitha.
Yeah.
We've got Annie. We've got Alice. Is there any others in your trunk?
Yeah, so I've got a couple more, because,
Beautiful.
You said 3, and I thought, well, you also said 5. So,
Always take it to the limit.
Take it to the limit. But I've got one that I won't spend too long on, and one that just I want to spend a little longer on. So the one I won't spend too long on, because I've recently been talking about her quite a bit on our podcast, is the wonderful Sadie from 11/22/63.
Yay! Bravo, Sadie.
Yeah, I just, these two star-crossed lovers, her and Jake. To me, the Sadie Jake dynamic is the core of the book.
Yeah.
Everything about Lee Harvey Oswald, everything about the JFK assassination it's just a means to an end, and the time travel stuff, that's really interesting, and the details are fabulous, and he pops back to Derry. Great, brilliant. For me, it's about Jake and Sadie. I just fell in love with her. She's the one who wakes Jake up, like literally. and,
right?
Yeah, literally, right? If it's not for Sadie, then I think Si and I chatted about this. It's like, my God, everything that he has gone through, going back and waiting out these 5 years on the very day that he's got to come and take destiny by the hand and stop Lee Harvey Oswald, is when he falls asleep. And not because he's lazy, but because he's had a horrific beating and he's now a victim. And she is the one who wakes him up. So again, she is as redemptive to Jake as Alice is to Billy. These, like Billy Summers, Jake, they wouldn't be half the characters they are if it weren't for these incredible women that are in their life. And it's thanks to her he's able to go through with the mission, even though the cost, obviously, to her and to him, but ultimately to her, is the highest you can pay, So, I mean, what a character. We see her as victim. We see her as rescuer. We see her vulnerability. We see her strength. And that line in the preface, if there is love, smallpox scars are as pretty as dimples. I'll love your face no matter what it looks like, because it's yours.
Oh, my heart.
I mean, right?
Yeah. Sadie is so beautiful for me. She is so larger than life in her beauty. And I say that with such reverence because of what physically happens to Sadie. Right? Like what physically attacks that. Because I think with her character, she is the epitome of girl next door Americana. If you are envisioning like a 1950s, 1960s girl on a catalog, on the cover of 17 magazine, like that's Sadie. She is just an American dream.
Yeah, right.
Right? She's beautiful and sweet, but yet King makes her very intelligent, incredibly smart, and worldly and strong, and she's a huge advocate, and basically she's just wonderful.
She's amazing, isn't it? And then he also adds that lovely quality of her being really clumsy.
Yeah.
at times, not constantly, and not to, she's this beautiful dancer. And her and Jake, so much about their relationship is dancing, and dancing is at the heart of this novel. And she literally, when she first meets him, falls into his arms, right? And when they're dancing, this sense that he's just at any moment the wheels could come off.
Yeah.
And I love that, because it just makes her even more human. So I agree, this perfect Americana poster girl, but with this real lovely, endearing clumsiness to her that I just thought that was a really nice character trait for her to have. I feel just, I guess maybe I don't know, for you, for women out there, does it make her more approachable, more realistic, rather than just this poster? I don't know.
I do think so. And I think it kind of, that resilience and this thing she has to kind of walk around with after the fact, this part of her that is gone and in its place is something different. Yeah. I think it makes me see her more as like a hero, because before I was like, oh wow, you're just the prize, Sadie. Like, you are a 10. You are beautiful, you are smart, everything you do is just graceful and lovely. Like, every guy wants you, Sadie. Like, you are the prize. And yet what she goes through and all this pain she's been living with and enduring. And then when she finally meets Jake, she's never been loved like that before. That changes a person. that changes the person. And I think it gives her the strength to realize that when she goes through what she goes through, there's some like extra zest there because she was loved so well. And that's huge.
I love that. I love what you say there. Yeah, to be loved so well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a, we should all do that to each other, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't, but yeah, to be loved so well. That's a beautiful phrase, Kim. Yeah, it gives you that, as you say, that extra zest. You feel you can, hold worlds in the palms of your hands because you're loved so well.
Yeah, because all of a sudden, and I think a lot of women, and hopefully we all experience this, but you get your heart broken along your youth, and sometimes later on in your life, you get it stomped on pretty good. And then if you keep on going, if you keep on keeping on and cracking some eggs, you meet amazing people. You meet amazing people who surprise you, and you wake up one day and you're like, I've never felt this before. I've never felt such confidence. I've never felt such wholeness. Like, wow, I feel like I can be who I am. I have boundaries now. I'm not going to accept behavior from crappy people. I feel like, wow, I've plugged into a source, like this kind of completeness in myself. And I realize what a treasure I am. I'm the prize. I'm worth it. I'm worth protecting myself for and being kind and good to people and realizing that not all men are bad, not all women are terrible. And I think that happens to Sadie. She has a real dud of a husband who's just done a number on her psyche. Horrible, right? And in more ways than one. More ways than psyche. And then she meets Jake, who's from 50 years down the road. And who just like worships her. And she's like, I want more of that. This needs to be on tap forever. So Jake's love is like this angelic sent from the heavens. She can't get enough of it. But yet it makes her strong. It makes her brave. It makes her, I can do anything. That's something that when I think about Sadie and their relationship and how beautiful it is, I'm like, oh man, what a special, special thing. And then all that she's able to give him, because she's like, wow, I'm going to bloom like a rose for this guy because I'm not made to be in the shadows. I'm not being put down. I'm not being told to be quiet. I could go on and on.
Absolutely. I deserve to be fully loved and loved well, right? And that book is filled with men that are, like abusers and, from Harry Dunning's dad, the butcher,
Gross,
and then it's the mum that, is trying to save the family. So often, as with King's books, from 1122 to Cujo, to The Shining, to obviously It, filled with these horrific male characters, as Bev says, these men, the shapes of men, and often these women that are literally throwing their lives on the line to save their children. Donna does it to Tad in Cujo. Wendy does it in The Shining. Here, happens in 11/22/63. These incredible women just literally blood, sweat, and tears on the line to save what's precious from these, these small men with machetes or knives or
right.
And I think King really does, if you look deep into it, the way that he populates the books with these really unsavory men, and sometimes the female characters are thrust into the center, sometimes they're not, but they all have, a lot of them have this strength and nobility. And sometimes that's come from just being trodden upon or pushed down. Or hidden in the shadows or having this weight upon them, but with that, this huge strength starts to take place. Yeah. And I love that, Sadie. And she says to Jake a couple of times, look, don't fuck me around here.
Yeah.
She's like, look, and I love that when she calls him.
Absolutely.
Because, I read that, I go, oh, Jake, just let Lee Harvey do his thing. Just fall in love. You're in love. Stay with this amazing girl. Stay with her. Make your home here. And she's incredibly long-suffering, I think, but she knows that he will love her well and she will love him well and she will be able to bloom and be that person, not have to be in the shadows. But I love it when she does just say, look, just, don't take me for granted. Right. And he's surrounded by people that go, look, they're on her side.
Yeah.
They said, look, you are breaking that young girl's heart. And if you do that, you lose us all.
Love that.
Absolutely, because everyone gravitates to her. And when we see it through the end in that beautiful epilogue, one of the most beautiful things King's ever written for me, where Jake sees Sadie as an older lady and, you know, that sense of, have I met you before? And she's, again, the centerpiece of this whole town, you know, being honored for being this incredible, incredible woman, this trailblazer. So, yeah, I mean, one of his greatest heroines, for sure.
Agree. Sadie's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, yeah.
She really is, and I think people can miss a lot if they're not looking, because she can be easy to dismiss in such a huge suspense novel with such a crazy plot. And then there's this like lovely daffodil of a person who's the brightest star, and yet she can be overlooked. And I'm so glad she's one you chose.
Oh, yeah. And for me, anytime she's not on the page, I feel the absence. I do, especially once we've met her. He writes so vibrantly about her. And when we then enter that period where he then leaves her to, you know, scope out Lee Harvey Oswald and that, you know, the book really, I think on purpose, meanders, and it's really grey for a section because she's not in there. She brings colour and vibrancy to his life and to the pages. So, yeah, the heart of the whole novel. In the same way, you know, in Wizard and Glass, it's Roland and Susan. I mean, King, when he writes romance and really goes, you know, all out for, you know, this is a love story, woman and man, love story, full pout, he really does a good number.
Oh, absolutely. Such a beautiful investigation. So extraordinary. All right. Who else is in the trunk as we make our way through the gals?
So my final one, and this is someone who, okay, so I had so much fun reading and rereading this character. She's sexy, she's sexual, she's predatory, loving, caring, liberating. She has the most incredible gifts. So she's telepathic, psychic, shapeshifter, astral projection. She's a maternal goddess. She is Rose the Hat.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so I remember reading Doctor Sleep and being a bit going into it a little bit with trepidation, thinking, do we need a Shining sequel? And I thought it was good, you know, but her character really stood out. And then I reread it, and I thought I had a lot of fun with that character in particular. And then actually, I tend to always be a bookman over the film, always.
Yeah.
But every now and then, and I think the film adaptation of Doctor Sleep is brilliant.
It's really good.
It's really, really strong. And I think Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat is just absolutely just burns a hole through the screen.
Agree.
The way she looks, the style, the hats, the fun that she's having. I mean, she's a brilliant actress that when she got that part that she was able to really sink her teeth into. Wow. I mean, she says about Rose the Hat, she's got all the elements of what a human being has and all the elements of a zest for life. All of that mixed with a great sense of style. Let's call a spade a spade. It's very liberating getting all of these aspects in one character. She's brilliant. Called the Queen Bitch of Castle Hell. Again, really interesting because on paper could just be, you know, badass villain, you know, with a good sense of style and, you know, but again, King layers it because he goes, okay, yeah, she is. It's easy to condemn what she does, but she feeds off people's pain.
Yep.
She feeds off this steam in the same way that, you know, when you hear King interviewed, he's not going to ever make it simple and say Pennywise is evil or this character is just, you know, fish got to swim, bird got to fly, right? It's like, you know, in order for them to survive and the true not to survive, they need to be able to feed off steam and have this pain. So that's why they do go to these places of great trauma. And that's why, yeah, you know, when that horrific, long, tortuous execution of the kid begs for his life wearing a Little League uniform, and they draw that out. And the film really lingers on that. really lingers on that.
Yeah.
Because they know that the longer that happens, the better the quality of the steam. And in a way, it's like, well, is she being evil or just doing what they need to do to survive? Because she's also incredibly maternal, right? She is the heart of the true knot.
Yeah.
She looks after them. She loves them. She nurtures them. She's heartbroken when they die. And she is, she's trying to feed her family. Okay. Effectively, she isn't the villain in her own story. Right, Kim? She's just trying to do what is necessary to keep her family together, to keep them alive. Her family hasn't eaten well in years. So suddenly when Abra and these other kids come along that have the shine, and she feels under pressure. She's like, my God, I got to go and get this. I've got to go and find this kid. She's doing what is necessary. And I think viewed through that lens as her as this kind of maternal goddess, it's quite interesting.
100%. She's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah. And she is just an awesome 21st century vampire queen. Like, this is reinventing the vampire.
Absolutely.
We've got all the things we love. She's immortal. She's stylish. They are filthy rich. She's got that cutting predatory edge. But yeah, like you said, there's an immense sense of tribalism. And being the center of the tribe and looking for food, being the hunter-gatherer at all times. And so we admire her for that, even though what she's doing is deplorable. We're like, you make this look good, girl. Let's...
Exactly. She's really sexy.
Yeah.
And I think, King really brings that to the page. And again, I think, Rebecca Ferguson did such an amazing job of just, on the screen, just bringing that character to life. And, she's really sexy, really alluring. So that if you are a little kid, you would go, oh my God, of course I trust you. And she comes and she's soothing and she's got to win that child's trust with a smile. Yet in the next moment, she will be leading the execution. Andy, kind of when she gets the trust of Andy to come and join the True Knot, she's so alluring. Crow Daddy, such a cool character as well. Yeah. Her kind of love, but you get the sense that maybe they'll throw their keys in the bowl and enjoy a little bit of vampire love outside of that because she's such a sexual being.
Yeah.
And just tremendous fun to read. And I think, we've gone into a little deeper read on her, but effectively, I think is a really fabulous female villain, one of King's best, almost the antithesis to, say, Annie Wilkes.
Yeah.
We're talking the weight, and by that, I mean the solidity, but also the weight of the mental health, the sadness there. This has a lighter touch, she's a sexy vampire, right?
I'm a huge fan as well because, she's perfectly cast in the film. She really is. But in the book, she's so vulpine and slithery and yet I'm so into it. I was so into Rose.
Yeah, and her journey's amazing, Kim, because, when we first see her, she's quite self-controlled. The True Knot are all going, open this canister, go on, open it. And she's like, no, we've got to make this last. We've got to eke this out. So bit by bit, trust me, I know you're going to talk about me behind my back, but I'm doing this for the good of us, okay? Right. So she's really got her shit together.
So enamored with your choices. These are incredible. We've got two villains. We've got our Rose and our Annie. We've got two angels, Sadie and Alice, and then Queen Tabitha.
That's a good trunk I'm feeling,
It's like the perfect mixed bag. It's the perfect light and dark ratio.
Oh, and I tell you, Kim, there have been times where that list has been a little different, and for a long time, notable mentions to Donna from Cujo, who I think is very much maligned. And I've read a lot of articles with people being incredibly on their high horse going, oh, well, it's her fault that, they end up in this car and, she dares to have an affair. And just, often a lot of articles written by men just going, well, sure, she's just a horrible character and she deserves to be locked in a car. Yeah, stuff like that. You go, hang on a minute. We look at it, this is a woman who is unhappy and who is unvalued and is human, okay? But what does she do? So most of the novel doing is trying to save her son.
Yeah.
In the same way that Wendy, from The Shining. I mean, yeah, that's why I hate the Kubrick film. I hate it. I hate it because
Rightly so.
I hate the way that she is portrayed and what he made that poor actress do, and the way he just reduces his character, who's, an absolute matriarch, an absolute powerhouse, to just this screaming banshee. I hate that film for many reasons, but particularly that. And I often think King adaptations get the female characters really wrong.
Yeah.
I think, anytime you do an adaptation, for me as a book lover, mainly, you're going to lose some of the nuances unless it's really in the hands of a craftsman, or you've got the right amount of time and space to develop the relationship. But often I think it's the female characters that really, really suffer when they make the switch to the celluloid, and that's disappointing. And I think it's given King a bit of a maybe undeserved reputation, maybe deserved at times in the past, not so much now, but of, just a bloke's horror writer.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of evidence for that. There's really a lot of evidence that supports that for sure. And I'm so excited to read Cujo. I'm so thrilled to get there and be with Donna. But you reminded me of how I kind of feel about Nadine in The Stand. I feel like she kind of really gets an unfair go because of what she is involved in, and Flag chooses her and manipulates her entire life. And so I don't like what people say about Nadine. I think it's a lot more layered than that.
I agree. And it's interesting, isn't it? The huge reaction, the vitriol that we've seen towards Holly Gibney. I know we might be talking about her in a bit, but it's, you read some of the, now, of course, yes, everyone is entitled to an opinion, but we all know what it's like when you go on social media and it's not a conversation, right? It's just someone going bleh and shouting in capital letters. And the amount of vitriol that this character has, it takes on quite an edge, I think, at times. And I'm like, wow, what is going on there for you, little keyboard man warrior in your basement?
Totally. Absolutely.
What are you threatened by there?
All right, we got two more. We're gonna chit chat really quickly about looking at your beautiful trunk of Stephen King females. This next question is asking if you had to choose one to get an extended spotlight, meaning they get their own novel or prequel or sequel.
Yep.
You get one character that you get to give a whole world to, a whole 300, 400, maybe 500 pages to this one lady. Who is it going to be for Matt Robinson?
Well, I think initially I went for Alice from Billy, again, to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Her and Bucky, her journey after Billy. But then I also thought, I know you're going to turn out better than okay, actually.
Right.
So maybe less is more there. I'd be quite interested to see Rosie from Rose Madder.
Oh!
Yeah. Rose Madder, for me, was a game of two halves. I love the parts of the book where it's the domestic situation, the domestic violence, the relationship, the abuse, the abuser on the run. When I say I love it, I mean, I think it's brilliantly written and it's nail biting, and it's got King's most horrific opening chapter. It's a punch to the guts, literally. And I just rooted for Rosie every single step of the way, and these incredible women that she meets, and the haven and the refuge she finds. And I hated all the bits with the picture and all the supernatural bit. That just, for me, I just didn't need that. I'd much rather it just kept its feet on the ground. I think it would have been a much more powerful novel for it. But I love the Rosie character, obviously. And, when we end Rose Madder, she marries Bill, has a daughter, but there's still that rage, right? She plants that seed
ending,
near the lake.
Yep.
Yeah, and the tree grows to help her with the rage. But what would happen then if, say, that tree got cut down? So I get the sense that it'd be a really interesting book or miniseries exploring her. Just those themes of, can we outrun past? Can we bury the past? Are we shaped by our traumas, nurture nature, all of that? Can we have a BC and AD line where we go, that belongs there, now I'm here? And I think she's such a fascinating character who's experienced and survived so much. It'd be really interesting to and dramatically to see a character dealing with perhaps moments of fallout, moments of darkness within that character. So I think Rosie from Rose Madder for me.
Brilliant choice. Like, I'm almost speechless. And we must have been twinning, because I was writing down my own favorites. I was like, who's on this for me? She's on there. She's absolutely on there because of everything she goes through, and that Greek mythology, wonderful segue we have. And then the ending is incredible because of what it opens up in her. And we have all these questions, and brilliant choice. Yeah. So good.
Well, as you say, Kim, sometimes I love that he, I'm a huge fan of King's endings. I think he writes brilliant endings because often they are open-ended and they leave us with more questions than answers. Great. Because he knows that we're smart as his readers, as his audience, and we don't want to have it all just wrapped up in a bow. And so I love that, because you put the book down, and there's part of you wanting it to be neat and closure and run off to the sunset, but there's always something lurking there. None more clearly than with this book.
Oh, amazing choice. Choice. Oh my gosh. I'm just giving all the happy faces and exclamation marks for Rosie, because she is so underrated. That novel is so in the shadows. I really want more people to spend time with that one because she is a diamond of a character. Great choice.
And what did you think, Kim, just briefly on that one? Because for me, I'd love to have just seen it exist as, the earthly part of the book rather than the more supernatural, the whole picture, the painting and all of that, and the ram's head or whatever. I mean, did that work for you, or did you think it was a bit mixed?
Oh man, so when I think about that novel, I really see it as like a twisted Pink Floyd album. like that's what it is for me, Matt. It's so, I can't even separate the two. I force myself to look at it as a whole, and because I think it could be a beautiful story about domestic abuse and redemption, but I think the very dark turns that King takes with that, the women's shelter is victimized yet again by Norman, like it's really sinister. And I think without the Greek mythology, without the fantastical, her stepping into the painting, I think it allows for a lot of levity and curiosity, whereas before it's a little bit of like a very uphill climb for the reader emotionally. But with this like wild, all caps wild, fantastical segue where lots of Greek symbols, the maze and the minotaur, the pomegranates from the underworld, the river Styx, like all this cool stuff he does. I see Rosie becomes larger than life for me. Okay, this lady's really special. Like her life was so afflicted and so haunted and so terrible, and yet she gets the privilege of stepping into this alternate world, being the star of this world, so to speak, and being brave enough to navigate through it, to go through the maze. And so we don't really know why that is or why she's given this opportunity. And so we just have all these things to think about with Rosie. And for me, it makes the novel richer and deeper. But I do agree. I think we could have it both ways. I think we could really, but because they're fused together in this crazy story, I kind of look at it as like, okay, this lady is larger than life.
Yes.
Larger than life in her pain, and then in her rebirth, now she's even more fantastical, and she gets revenge by finding this alternate self, Rose Madder, who's this like warrior woman on a horse inside this painting. And I'm like, what are you, Pink Floyd book? So
that's a great image.
It works, right? Like it's so trippy, it's so out there, it's so druggy. I love the weird. Because it is a little bit of a breath of like, okay, Norman is out there, Rosie is in here, where she is queen of this land. She's this warrior princess, making it work, making it happen. And so I enjoyed that break from the trudge. But then I was also fascinated because I'm like, how is he going to mash this together? How is he going to bring...
Yes.
What is happening?
And no drugs on that one. That this is
Exactly.
all post drugs, right?
Right? That was so working. Right. And so I think for me, I love looking at Rose Matter as a complete puzzle with a ton of weird and wild. And then we've got this lovely Rose, quite literal Rosie, and a really perplexing ending that makes me so excited to break that down. What a cool choice.
Beautifully put. Yeah, love it. I love it. You make a really strong argument for it, actually, for the madness needing to be there, and for the alter ego of the Rose Madder. Yeah, I totally. Yeah, no, it's really powerful. Because I mean, if it's just the domestic and the earthbound part of the book, it'd be really slim, really brutal. Almost in my head, it'd be put out by another author or a pseudonym, like a Bachman's kind of style part. New Bachman. That's one I really hope. I don't think they've adapted it.
Don't think so.
Me, not them. They probably do a brilliant job. But I could just imagine it really sucking because it would just be horrible CGI and dream sequences and all the bad stuff rather than the character-driven piece. But I love what you say. Yeah, Mad Pink Floyd album. That's wicked. That is wicked. It's a great point.
When I describe it to people because I want them to read it, I'm like, I need you to invest some time because it's worth it. And I was like, it's like any sort of post-rock experience where you play the album and you don't know where we're going. But you're in it for the ride.
You're strapped in.
You're like, this is Dark Side of the Moon, folks. Get ready, hit play.
I love it. Beautifully put. Beautifully put.
I'm so glad you chose it. You have some cracker picks, Matt. Like these are so good because they are titles that don't get a lot of sunlight. And I really want people to spend some time with these ladies. And I can't applaud you more for picking the ones that really, really resonate. So good.
Well, we're twinners, right? So it's,
we are.
It's no doubt.
100%. All right. Last question on this incredible investigation. Come September, we're going to have a happy day as constant readers. We get another King novel, bless him.
Yep.
I think he's 74, 75 this year. What a happy day. And it is the solo novel, a complete novel on one particular Stephen King female named Holly Gibney. What are your thoughts on Miss Gibney? And how do you feel this is kind of like a game changer for the women of King, maybe women who are reading King for the first time? Thoughts about Holly?
It's front of mind for sure at the moment because King has this real love for this character he's created. So he loves Holly and, was going to be maybe a bit part in one book and then ended up being in a trilogy and then in another couple and now's got her solo book coming out. So, part of it is I have to trust King,
Love it.
For his love and interest in this character. And, she's, I think, brought him a lot of salvation and enjoyment in what is maybe this final stages of his writing career. Okay. I mean, going to be a sorry day, but as you say, King's mid-70s. So, and he's churning out books at a real regular pace, which is so brilliant for us as readers. And I think part of it is being revitalized and so excited by the success of the crime thrillers, if you like, and the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. But Holly's put a fire under him, and that can be only a good thing. The amount of abuse as well and cynicism and criticism that is just hurled her way. I read with real amazement, actually, just the vitriol of it. And it immediately makes me want to then champion her because I feel, not that she needs my protection in any way. I don't mean it like that, but I'm just like, whoa, hang on a minute. Let's wait and see, because she has this incredibly flexible mind. She's able to, we've seen it in, The Outsider in particular, where she's able to balance logic and fantasy, reason, reality with the supernatural. where everyone else is just going to extremes, going, it's got to be this, no, it's got to be that. She's the one that is able to have that inquiring mind and fearlessness to actually go, maybe there's something here, let's lean into it. She's the one that leads that hunt to hunt down the supernatural entity. She's the one that is able to convince mainly these male characters, these older male detectives, hang on a minute, whoa, look, you need to listen to me here, you're on the wrong path. So she's really formidable as a character. Don't forget, she is the one that brings down Brady. She's the one that wields the power and stops Brady in his tracks. She's the one that is able to, because of her incredible eye for detail and her memory for the facts and what's going on, she's able to almost have eyes in the back of her head and see things that some of the other characters that seem a little bit more mortal or grounded or heavy can't see. So I think she's fascinating. I think she's clearly also really exciting to see a neurodiverse female detective. Clearly, King writes her with potentially, could be OCD, synesthesia, sensory processing disorder. She's somewhere on the spectrum. Keen, intelligent, this savant-like memory, razor sharp in her observation skills. I mean, you would not want to come up against her if you're on the wrong side of the tracks or the law, right? She will hunt you down and use her wits and intelligence and fearlessness. So I find it interesting that she's so divisive, because if I put all those characteristics down on a piece of paper that I've just described, I go, well, brilliant. What's not to like? So I'm curious as to why people are really threatened and really worked up about her. I think she's fascinating. Again, I think, some of the adaptations have gone for a little bit one size fits all with perhaps the spectrum, giving her little quirks and,
right.
Now, my experience of autism is the very extreme end of autism through my son, who, needs one-to-one care, has very severe, profound autism, where he has none of the things that the media portray autism as being, which is, incredible memory and you're great at maths and you're, really, well, there's a whole host of people that aren't, but they don't have a voice, because often, like my son, they don't have a voice. They can't talk. So I'm a real passionate advocate for profound, complex, severe autism, call it what it is, and really pushing to look at having the spectrum redefined, because, having someone who's very, very capable and able with Asperger's being put in the same spectrum as someone as my son doesn't do either my son or someone on the other end of the spectrum any favors. It must be more nuanced than that, because ultimately what happens is everybody loses out on the care that they need and deserve. So there was a little bit of that, I think, in the adaptations of making Holly a bit, and I will use the word a bit Rain Man, okay? Because we've seen that. We've seen how the media likes to depict that side of autism. That put me off a little bit, but then that's a personal connection and a trigger for me. Stripping it away, I think she's a really interesting character. And King says of her, I just love Holly, and I wish she were a real person. She just walked in on the first book she was in, Mr. Mercedes, and she more or less stole the book, and she stole my heart.
Oh.
So, that's King being really, really open there.
Yeah.
So, as always, I'm fascinated to see what he will do with her. I like the fact that she's getting her own novel. Before, she's been the partner to Bill,
right?
Or she's there with Ralph, and now it's like, no, I'm going to thrust you center stage. Good, that's what we want, right? And my God, it's got to be better than Fairytale. Now, okay, anything's got to be better than Fairytale, but so I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
What about you, Kim? What about you?
I love your perspective so much. I'm just still chewing on that. Yeah, I think the best message is to trust King, man. Like, let's just see what he's doing. Let's see what he's doing. And I think there's so many haters out there who want her to conform to the cool they have in their mind. You know, they want her to sort of be this Marvel Avenger of some sort. I think when we meet her in Mr. Mercedes, she's got a lot against her. I think King emphasizes that mania a little bit. She's got a lot of substance abuse issues. She's got family stuff. But yet, with every single story, she is developing, she is growing, she is coming into her own. And that is really cool. So I think it's brilliant to let go, trust King, and stop having an opinion about it. Like, stop this Cujo bite down on and hatred, loosen up the jaws a skosh, and just sort of relax and observe, gather data like a scientist.
Yes, here. Oh man, totally. Yeah, because it's the same kind of thing. It's like, just because you have a keyboard doesn't mean you should start to type a load of vitriol. Because again, this is the kind of stuff we saw it happen. You know, when King did Eyes of the Dragon, and everyone went, "Oh, what the hell are you doing, man? You shouldn't write like this. You should write like that." And then he was like, "All right, well, fuck you. Here's Misery." Okay. And part of Misery is, you know, about you and about obsessive fans and about Tabitha coming out saying that none of you know him and none of you own him. It's just like, back off. So again, I just find it curious that amongst the most passionate King fans, people go, "Keep writing, dude, keep writing. I hope you never die. I want you to live to 100 and write a book a year." Well, here's the book, but no, I don't want that one. I don't want a strong female in the lead. And I wonder if it's because she doesn't have some of the social filters that the other characters we meet might have. She's very upfront and very like, boom, this is it. There's no bullshit to her. And I think, I don't know, of course, everyone has opinions. And there are some very measured opinions I've read about people going, look, just doesn't do it for me. In the same way that Randall Flagg might rock someone's boat, but doesn't rock another character's boat, whatever it may be. But let's be honest, Holly hate is a real thing in the King community. And I'm just like, yeah, as you beautifully put it, that Cujo-like bite, just drop it, right? Just enjoy the fact there's another novel coming out. And you might be surprised because it might be really bloody good. I love the perversity of King because he is a man who strikes me very much. Again, I don't know him. I don't own him. I would love to know him. But I get the sense that he goes, right, you didn't like that? Well, I'm going to do another Holly book. In fact, I'll spend the rest of my life while I write doing a Holly book. That will be it. It'll be like a series like the Misery books. You know, it'll just be the Holly books.
You are dead on. I think that might be, there's a high probability you're exactly right. And it's a huge middle finger to everyone.
Right. Exactly.
Huge probability. Because he's an outspoken guy and we love him for that. And I could see him doing something like that.
I could see him totally doing that. And I think as he gets older, what's that thing? I think it was Bowie said, you know, as you get older, you become the person you always dreamt about being.
Oh, I love that. Bowie.
You just go, look, this is me and this is what I think. And I'm sorry, I'm too old to change this or that. And I sensed with King that he's like, look, this is me and this is what I want to write about now. Fairytale didn't do it for me, but he had a real hoot writing that. Now I want him to keep writing books like Billy Summers because for me that is just those masterpieces. But again, that's just my thing. But the fact that he's just writing at the rate he's writing, I think we should be thankful for. And let's be honest, I'm the person that champions Dreamcatcher. So yeah. For a lot of people, they go, hey, I don't listen to this guy anyway. But even in books like that, or Tommyknockers, those books that are oft derided, there's stuff to be had there that's a really, really beautiful laugh and, you know, some great, great moments within it. So there'll be moments like that within Holly, I'm sure. And maybe it might be the best thing he's ever written. You never know.
Oh, you're so right. I hope it's going to blow everybody away. I really, really do.
Me too.
So well said, Matt. Oh man, this has been incredible. Oh my gosh, I could go on and on, but I do want you to not turn into a pumpkin. And
oh, Kim, it's just been such a joy. Thank you for having me on your amazing show. You know what huge fans me and Saya are of you and what you stand for and what you talk about and the way you look after both your listeners, the readers, the guests that you have on the show. And, you know, when we started our podcast, you were in fact, the first person we reached out to to go, hey, do you fancy doing a collaboration?
Yay!
And you just met us with such warmth and kindness, and that's been continued day in, day out. So and I was really, really honored, and initially a little, I think, wow, talking about the women in King, what can I as a middle-aged white bloke talk about? And then I took a moment and thought, wow, what an honor to be asked to talk about something so powerful and so important to me, actually. And it's been a real joy, and I hope I've done it a semblance of justice. And so thank you.
Oh my gosh, more than I could have asked for. And you were the first person I thought of for this iteration. So, oh man, I think you could just have lecture halls packed, my friend. You might have to moonlight as a lecturer someday.
We'll do a joint tour, right?
Oh,
okay.
That'd be amazing.
I'll be your warm-up act, and you'll do the stadium headliner, right?
I adore you, Insai. I love your show. Can you let everybody know what you guys are up to, where they can find you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. We've just finished doing 11/22/63. We did a 3-parter on that, and really taking our time doing deeper dives, and we're starting to quite like doing that, taking some of the books and just chopping them up so we can really go deep within the text. And we have a very, very special episode that is due to drop on July the 4th. Very, very special day for you and all our wonderful friends across the pond. So yeah, we have a very special episode with a ton of awesome special guests coming out then. And so yeah, we just, we love being able to get together, talk about King. We've also got the Survivor type spin-off where we invite people onto our island to choose. It's like Desert Island Discs, but with a Stephen King feel.
It is so much fun. I love Survivor type.
Yeah, it's amazing. A real hoot to do. And of course, we're still chipping away, as I'm sure you are, and anyone that has a Stephen King podcast, trying to get the man himself in to go, come on, talk about Holly. Yeah, that's why we're not pumping out content at the moment, because most of the time we're just dealing with, cease and desist letters and restraining orders. But yeah, for anyone that likes our stuff or wants to know more, yeah, just search Kingsize wherever you pod, or on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, all the usual suspects. And we're on Instagram as well as at Kingsize Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Matt. This has been a golden couple hours, platinum hours, maybe. Thank you so much for bringing all of your research and love and heart. Everyone listening is just going to have the most special time with this. So thank you for being amazing and putting such beautiful work into your love of King.
Bless you, Kim. Thank you so much. Real pleasure.
We'll have you back soon. Take care. The chapter on the women of Stephen King, Part 3, is now closed. Thank you all so very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Isn't Matt R. just incredible? Isn't he just magical in every sense of the word? The answer is yes. I know it and you know it, and I'm so grateful he's in my life, and our love of King allows us this intercontinental friendship that brings me so much joy. The King community has been so incredibly kind to me, so I know we'll continue to do rad stuff together because we really are each other's biggest fans. Thanks again to Matt Robinson, and please check out episode 98 on the year of underrated Stephen King, where Matt is in the hot seat for my constant reader interview. It's so good, guys. It's the most compelling interview, so please give it some love if you haven't heard it, and be sure to check out Kingsize wherever you find your podcasts. Matt and Simon recently did some incredible coverage on 11/22/63, and I'm so excited for what's around the corner for them this year. Of course, I have the VIP privilege of knowing what they're going to cover next, but I can't say anything, so I'll keep the secret until they reveal it, but I am excited. At this present time, I'm nearly done with 2022's, 2022's Fairytale, and boys and girls, okay. I'm in the last third of the novel, and I'm having a bit of attention issues, which, For Kim C equals a problem, so we'll see how it concludes. I really have enjoyed the first 2/3, but this last third, we shall see. The jury is still out, but I hope to have that episode for you soon and continue our exploration of Fantasy King. In other exciting news, I do have some extra special constant reader interviews that may bump ahead in the line, so just a heads up there. I won't say who the guests are because I'm flipping out so bad I don't even believe they're real or that those recordings happened. More on that later. But it might delay my Fairytale episode just a little bit, but it'll totally be worth it. And lastly, if you haven't yet shared the show with a friend, please do if you would be so kind. I would love if you would review the show and say hello whenever you get a chance at underratedsk@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you and learn who your favorite King females are. Let me know your thoughts on the show, past episodes. It would be ultra great to get some mail in the Underrated SK inbox. But if you're busy and enjoying some cocktails by the pool, which hopefully you are, it is August after all, you can show us some love with rating the show so we can catch some more King fans in our flytrap. That's all I have for you today, sweet ones. Thank you for listening and being the best bunnies in the barn. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.